You're listening to Women's Dream Enlightenment, dream decoding, deep discussions, and spiritual stories of self-discovery to inspire your personal enlightened journey. I'm your host, Megan Mary, founder of Women's Dream Analysis. Let's bring in the light. Welcome. Today we have Maria Teresa. She is a heart-centered and highly conscious healer who embraces her sensitivities as superpowers. Having triumphed over her own traumatic experiences, Maria has emerged as an empowered psychic medium and channel with a unique ability to see souls. A published poet with 6 books of channeled poetry, she inspires spiritual awakening, development, self-love, and empowerment. Welcome, Maria.
Hello, Megan. It's good to be here.
Yes, it's wonderful to have you here. And I'm going to start out the way I do all of the episodes by asking you the pivotal question, what does enlightenment mean to you?
I believe enlightenment is awakening to the truth viewed through the lens of soul. So the title of my 6th book is My Soul's Dance, Accepting the Shadows While Embracing the Light, Poems of Death and Rebirth. And I believe that many of us are here to incorporate that. I know my life has been nothing but that. Continuing change, continuing death and rebirth, and just bringing the shadows to light and loving it all along the way.
I love that. I always love to hear people's interpretation, and it's always so unique. And of course, very much intertwined with your own personal story, which you're going to share here today.
Yes.
So I really created this podcast as a means for women to be able to tell their stories of spiritual awakening, what happened to them, what led them down their path. And then once they had that experience, where they ended up. So it's usually a long story, but in a brief way. What were some of the key highlights for
Oh
you?
my goodness. Key highlights. Well, I did not realize or was aware that I was as sensitive as I am until it took me 40 years to learn this vehicle, this vessel that I'm in. And life was incredibly uncomfortable. God set all my sense settings on high and trauma turned them all off. I believe that I'm one of the light workers, starseeds that has been afraid of her own power and light my entire life. And I had to go through a series of experiences in order to stand in my truth and to be who I am. And that has taken an awfully long time in linear time. But once I awakened, that, my life has not looked the same since. That was in 2019. I am now 47. So that was right after my 41st birthday. I'd say that some of the highlights are attempting suicide in 2011. I call that the gift of my desperation. That was my bottom. That really opened me to something else and having the courage to be curious enough to seek the truth within myself, because I was completely, I say it felt like being a million-piece puzzle dropped on the floor. I've just been trying to pick up the pieces ever since that. And when I had a shamanic healing in 2019, I was ready to unearth the pit of my trauma, which was being sexually abused as a child. That session changed my whole life, and I've not looked back since. So it's about accepting myself for who I am and shining light and owning my gifts. And these were all things that I ran from. I ran from spirit. I did not want to see and be and hear all the things that I was experiencing. They were quite scary. I had nobody to talk to them about. So yeah, it was really just about being comfortable in my own skin.
Yeah, completely understandable, particularly when you're highly sensitive and when you're highly intuitive and when you're picking up on all sorts of things throughout your life. But especially as a child, you're told to just shut that down. And of course, we do shut down a lot of things just as a coping mechanism. as a way to move forward in our life because we have to, but we don't realize that all of that is harboring and it's causing disease and it's causing all these other problems.
I'm very grateful for it. I've gotten to the
Yeah.
point in my life where I am so grateful for everything I've experienced. Years of drug addiction, years of alcoholism and eating disorder, being sexually abused. These things have shown me more of myself, and I say I've turned pain into power. So it's this self-love journey that really started from a very dark place. So yeah, and this is what I help other people to do now as a healer and writing the poetry that I do. And most recently in 23, starting to channel light language. And so it's a combination of light language and poetry that just kind of emits from my body. And I just allow. I say a lot of this is allowing and listening, listening and allowing, and just being. One of my mantras is my being is freeing. I'm as free as I allow myself to be. And I am a very free spirit. I always have been. I've always been very different and unique. And those were things that I tried to hide in a way, but now it's just like, this is what I'm here to do. So I'm going to help other people be who they are because that's what our world needs right now.
Yes, I agree so much. And I recently discovered
Yeah.
that light language actually can also be in dance. And
Mm.
it's not necessarily speaking at all, that it's actually freeing the being using bodily movement to express and emote and communicate things that can't really be communicated in words. And I've seen you do that as well. And
Yeah.
that was a moment for me because I was like, oh, okay. I already knew how to do this and I just didn't know what I
Yeah,
was.
I love that you're bringing this up, Megan, because receiving as many messages as I do, Spirit started to share with me, like, you're going to start doing all of it, Maria. We're going to have you incorporating all of it. And I am a deadhead. I'm a hippie. I've been a dancer my whole life. I was trained dancing. So that was really how I first started to connect with my soul when I was young and just dance freely and do all these like movements. And then it's all kind of just come, right? It's just this beautiful orchestration of soul, my own personal heart song. The words, the languages of soul, the different things that I do, they all come out in the sessions that I hold. I mean, we're doing that no matter where we're going. Our presence is affecting other people. Once you stand in your power and your light, you are activating others and we're helping each other remember who we are and what we're here to do. It's really just quite joyful. I'm in a very joyful place in my life, a very harmonious, peaceful, joyful place.
It's wonderful.
Thank you.
Yes. There's
Mm,
something about dance that can be so freeing and healing
mhm.
that when you don't have it, you really feel that empty lack of it, right?
Yeah,
It's
the
and
heaviness.
yeah,
Yeah.
and yeah. And I remember someone that was empathic said that when they're on the dance floor, they actually can't handle it because everybody's throwing off all of their energy and they're getting rid of it. It's a very interesting healing modality that I don't think is recognized enough. And that certain people are placed with that gift
Mhm.
to share that in that way. Because I've had some other people on the show that do light language and they speak it, and I found that to be very fascinating when I first discovered it and when I first
Mhm.
discovered it for myself. But then again, there are so many languages, right? So many ways to communicate and beyond the physical five senses, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I love that you're talking about all this because I feel like my parents could sense I was a super, super shy child and they put me into dance and that was my thing. I mean, that is just how I express myself. I wanted to be a dancer. The two dreams I had in life were to be a dancer and to be a writer. And all these years later, who would have known that I would have been quite successful with both of them, just really being who I am and allowing all that to come through. And it is something, again, just that allowing because wherever I go, I can't help but kind of shine and stand out. People are like, oh, and I'm just like, here I am.
Right.
Here I am
Yeah.
to do my thing. And it sparks other people, you know? And it is so beautiful. So, yeah,
Mhm.
dancing, one of the questions a shaman would ask somebody in ancient times was, when's the last time you sang and when was the last time you danced? And if
Mm,
you hadn't done those two things, there was a sickness in your soul. And those are
mm,
things I do on a daily basis. I speak like language to my dogs. We have 6 German shepherds. The males especially understand it. I am always moving and shaking. Right now I'm sitting in a rocking chair. Like, I'm somebody who has been given the gift of movement. So I just go with it. Yesterday I was working on some of my like computer stuff, and that is hard for me. I am somebody who really can't sit in front of a computer like hours on end, and that is super sensory overload for me. In today's world, these are why these things are happening. I'm here to say it's okay that you can't do that. There's many of us who weren't wired to do that. And I've
yeah.
always known that about myself. I've always had like to be connected to people before I started focusing on my purpose full time.
Mm,
It was not sitting at a desk.
yeah. And mentally, I love it, but physically, it's horrible for me, right? I mean, I've heard it called sitting disease, and I definitely have it.
Mm. Oh, I
Um,
like that. I have sitting disease.
yeah. And I was reading last night about the auric field and the auric body and the emotional aura and all of the other layers of energy that we cannot perceive. Well, some of us can, but that
Yeah.
we cannot perceive visually. And it's interesting to me what's happening with those fields when we do movements
Mhm. Mhm.
and how we exchange energy for good or bad in ways that we cannot visually see. And so I want to talk a little bit about the chakra balancing work that you do and transplants. I want to know a little bit about that too.
Mm. Well, when an energetic system is out of balance, it will have these, which looks like tar cords that are negative that need to be removed from it. And that helps it spin and operate and glow the way that it needs to. And then transplanting chakras are just when that specific place is like dead and it needs to be just completely removed. And so I do a lot of this obviously through guidance and through angels, dragons. My team pretty much consists of angels, dragons, galactic beings, and they help me to do that. So I'm just a bridge for those things. And these are things that I've been able to be aware of for most of my life. I feel like before I met the person who kind of taught me how to really hone these skills, I was born a healer. You know, when I first dropped into a session in my apprenticeship, I said, "Oh, I've done this before. I've like totally done this before." I'm a toner and a chanter, and I do a lot of channeling. Just things that happen and come out of me are just they were not taught to me. They are just coming through me.
Hmm.
So it's just tuning into somebody else's system and seeing where they need a tune up, so to speak. I'm
Yes.
tuning souls. I'm attuning people
I
and
like,
sharing information along the way and connecting to other people, to their guides, connecting to their loved ones. There's so many things that go on in a session with me. My teacher would like to say that, I'm like human drugs. I'm like a mushroom
hmm.
in human form.
Yeah, because there's so much revealed, right?
Mhm, mhm.
Yeah.
Depending, it's an energetic exchange, so it's whatever that person is ready for and open
Hmm.
for, and then we can just go back and forth, and so every session is different because every person's different, so that's the interesting thing about energy. It's what you're ready for, and then the discernment on my part of doing somebody's highest and best good. It's not
Yeah.
up to me, it's not up to Maria. It's up to my soul, and my soul, her name is Serena, and that is my most recent past life, and so I'm very aware of these things. That's also something I was gifted with, is knowing and understanding many of my past lives and what I'm here to do to incorporate in this life. And yeah, it gets pretty out there.
But it's commonplace for this podcast. So
It is.
a lot of,
Well, good, I'm glad.
yeah, all my listeners have pretty much heard a lot of this.
Hey everyone, I'm thrilled to announce my debut novel, The Dream Haunters, A Metaphysical Mystery of Magic, is now published. It is the first book in the Witches of Maple Hollow series. The Book Life Prize calls it a highly inventive work, packed to the brim with surprise portals, ancient traditions, and dream worlds. Get your exclusive signed copy today at meganmary.com. Stop by the store while you're there and grab your dream journals, cozy blankets, pillows, candles, and more. And don't forget, it's also available in audiobook. Forward your proof of purchase from any online retailer to me, and I will send you a code to use next time you shop. I can't wait to read your reviews.
I want to talk about soul retrieval. Did you, I would imagine, have to first go through that yourself?
Mhm. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. That was what occurred in my first session
Mhm.
with my teacher. She retrieved a piece of my soul from a past life. And literally, Megan, that's why I say my life has not looked the same since. It was like, oh, I'm here. Okay. And I was angry. The beginning parts of my awakening were like a lot of anger. And what's going on here? I just felt very discombobulated. Like I had to learn things in a very kind of backwards way, if that makes sense. But yeah, and then the second session I had with her was me raising my own vibration, which felt like an earthquake in my body, and just bringing myself up to where I needed to, just by her connecting our energetic fields. It kind of like bursts me, like almost like the paddles that they rub, and just
Oh, yeah.
that's what it felt like. It was like, oh, okay, I'm here.
Mhm.
And understanding that in other people, seeing where pieces are left behind and incorporating that into them. And I say, give it time. This kind of healing is incredibly deep and profound, and it takes a time to integrate. So give yourself grace, rest, drink a lot of water, and things will change over time. But it's so beautiful to watch that progression in other people. It's a pay it forward for me. It's doing for others what was done for me. And it's just so beautiful. And now when things like overtake me, like last night I was hit with like a ton of light language, just like this soul shiver came on me, and I was just speaking in light language, and it's an
Oh, yeah.
interesting time.
Yeah, I like the term soul shiver
Yeah.
because I have definitely had that. I know exactly what you're talking about. I put it in my books. I tried to explain it for people who are like, "Oh, I know what that is." And it's hard to explain, it's hard to quantify. And when I don't get them for a while, I think, "Oh, no. Am I doing something wrong?"
Yeah, no.
But I think that it's just it goes through periods where
Mhm.
you're getting it a lot, it's very intense, and you're just kind of along for the ride, and then you kind of gotten your information, and then you
Mhm.
have a break, right?
Yes, yes, we can't constantly, this is what I say to people that I help guide. It's like we can't constantly be in a flow state. That would be craziness. We would be not grounded. We would be up and living in our upper chakras all the time, and that's not
Right.
doable. It's not good on the human
It's
body.
it's desirable, though, I have to say, this
Well,
whole
because there's a
grounding
high to
thing.
it. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a high to it. So I have somebody I'm guiding now, and we were joking around, and she was like, "Can I just mainline all this light, Maria?" And I was like,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
it sounds great." And I do understand that, because when I'm in a session, that is the greatest high, surpassing any drug I've put into my body. It is amazing. But then I also come down and be in my body and connect to Mother Earth and rest. And that, for me, a lot of my journey has been learning balance and boundaries
Yeah.
based on the way that I was raised, in a lot of chaos and dysfunction. And finding my way in the world has really been a lot of balance and boundaries and saying no. And I'm a free spirit. I'm fun. I like people. But I also have learned to really value and respect and give myself grace in quiet. It's essential to do this work. I can't just keep going, 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 going. No. Burnout is
Yeah.
real. Burnout is something you don't want. It hurts.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Initially, when I experienced my whole thing, I was just kinda like, I don't wanna do grounding, I don't wanna do earthing, I don't wanna be here, why would I do
Mm,
that? And so I'm starting to realize the importance of it because it's keeping you here to do the work you need to do. And
yeah.
it's like, yes, you can go there and you can have these floodgates, but like you said, then you're not gonna be here to spread the message and help the people and do all those things. So,
Yeah. It's a
it's
marriage between ego and soul. Like, I
mhm.
can say that most of my life, especially being the channel that I am, I've spent most of my life outside my body, Megan.
Yeah.
So I can tell you that that is highly dangerous. It has put me in some really precarious places and places where I know I'm divinely guided and protected, but there's no logical reasons why I should even be here.
Right. Right.
So when I first was popped back into my body, I was like, ooh, this is like, what is
So
this?
combining.
This is like, and now I can sense that, I'm very aware of like when I'm like, and when I'm like, like just the levels, and it's important for me because I can go. That's
Sure.
easy for me.
That's where we're
So
from. Yes.
exactly.
Hmm. Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, I also love that you're a writer because that is something I've recently stepped into.
Mm.
Not that I wasn't always, right? But I think the first things that I ever wrote were poetry, and that was
Mm.
what I liked to do the most. And it was only in the last couple of years that I actually stepped into much longer stories. But poetry was my first love, really. And I think that in its brevity, it can be so profound.
I am always like when I put a manuscript together, and I look at things I've written because channeling, they just come out. I literally write things. Most of my work is done in minutes. It's like, doop, done. And then I move on to the next and I move on to the
Mhm.
next. And so the blog has really helped me look at those things, and then putting books together has helped me look at what I've written. I mean, at this point I have 6 published and 6 unpublished, and they just come. They're just messages. And so when I read them, I go, "Huh. Wow."
Yes.
But I've always been somebody like, I say God gave me all of these gifts and senses, but I also was given the gift of articulation and being able to
Mhm.
document it. And so that is something that is held dear to me. When I was in, a hospital after mental breakdowns and the suicide attempt, given a journal, that was my lifeline. Writing has saved my life over and over and over and over again. That's really the inception of Emotional Musings, was to show people that you're not crazy, that you can heal and you're not alone. And so getting all of those thoughts down really, really saved me. And then reading them again. And then when people bring up something to me and I read it again, and I go, huh, wow. Like, I don't have words for it. I am never not awe-inspired by all of this and what we're here to do and to remind people of and to share. One of my prayers every day is to clear my channel and to give me a humble servant's heart in order to
Mm.
allow these things to come through, because that's really all I want to do, is just help other people.
Yeah, I like
Yeah.
that. I really like that. And having the gift of words and then also having no words, because
I mean,
it's
the
it's true.
paradox of it all. Well,
There's both.
and to bring that up, Megan, like my partner we're very, very different. And he is a much more quiet, private. He says that to me a lot, Maria. Maria, you need both. You need a good balance of both. And we definitely
Yeah.
are yin and yang.
Oh, yeah.
Um, and, I think being around people like that helps us to embrace those things within us. It's that perfect mirror. That's what he does for me, at least.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's the gift of writing too, is
Mm.
when you can have the gift of words and articulate what you're feeling or experiencing, that instantly allows someone else to mirror their experience in your words and go, "That's exactly it, and I
Yeah.
could have never written that down, and I could have never explained it that way, but you hit the nail on the head." And I think the reason that we do write is because there's people out there that need that
Hmm.
resonance. They need
Yes.
to hear it back, and so there
Yes.
has to be people to write it down so that they can hear it back.
Well, I always say I'm a poet troubadour. That's what I'm here to do. I'm like, everything I do is very like ancient and kind of old and original
Mm,
is what's coming out of me. I'm a very old soul.
yeah.
And so I agree with you. And there was a few months I've actually ceased doing it, but I was holding space, and it was called Words with Wings. And it was me and a girlfriend of mine sharing our poetry and holding space for others to share their stories. And it was just this beautiful, what you just explained, this little container of nourishment for people. And I want to expand that and maybe do that in different ways. And that's why I share what I share. That's why I do what I do. I actually have a poem here that I wanted to share here with
Yes,
you,
please.
that I was told to bring to this little
Awesome.
chat with us. Okay. It's called Fire Feathered Flight. Bathed in spirit, blessed in light, holding on to what I've learned by the glow of moonlight. I'm strong in my convictions. I know who I am. Soul resonance rings out like a church bell, calling me inwards to the altar of my being. Inside the sacred halls, I am safe in the knowing, protected, guided, and openly enlightened, traveling the path my soul chose to take. Sovereignty lies in spiritual truths, singing, dancing, and chanting, taking careful steps, discerning the angles and the edges, climbing the levels of awakened ascension, invisible staircase to the heavens, bidding farewell to the past, washed clean from the ash, flying towards my destiny, cloud-shaped forms delight in joyful laughter. Peace is mine forever after.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you
Thank you.
so much for sharing that. And there's so many reflections of what we were
Mhm.
talking about in
Yeah, well,
that.
that's
It
why I bought
sounds
that one. I actually wear
perfect.
this. My partner bought this for me. We have a yin and a yang with dragons on them, and I am the phoenix. That is,
Mm,
I am the phoenix. I am very much embodying that story and that role for sure,
yes.
for sure. And
Yeah.
I'm also mostly fire. I'm a double Sag. Actually, I have a Sag cellulum, so I've got
Oh.
Sagittarius, Sun, Moon, Neptune, and Venus.
Oh. Well, I'm Sagittarius rising, but
There we go. There's our connection. You still
yeah.
got that fire. I've always been very interested in astrology, and I follow a lot of things, and I listen to two people that they're like my go-to people, Molly McCord and Pam Gregory. I love them so much. But I've always been interested. Ever since I was a child, I've just had this innate question and curiosity about energy. And so learning more about yourself, and that's really what astrology is, just the blueprint of your own energy. And then being human and holding free will, it's all within our hands to reach that destiny. And nothing is ever going to pass us by. So all of these sparks and things, which we're beginning now because we're moving into this beautiful creation period with tomorrow's equinox, we're all going to start doing new things that are going to enlighten us and keep us in joy. And that's why I always say to people, do what lights you up. And if you don't know what lights you up, try a whole bunch of things. I am here to inspire others to have the adventure through experience. And I've experienced so many different, I say a lot of lifetimes in this one lifetime. And I keep going. I don't stop.
Yes. And I love that too. I'm so happy that you were able to share your story and your really personal experience, and that you've been able to emerge, like you said, like the phoenix from it, and really give that back and be a light for everyone else. So, where can people find you if they
Mm.
want to work with you and they want to know more about everything that you offer?
Everything I do is emotional musings. I am on all platforms except for Facebook. If you go to Emotional Musings, my website, and you click on services, it'll bring you to the Musing Shaman, which is all of my services. And yeah, Emotional Musings, Maria Teresa. Yep, that's where you can find me.
And that actually makes me happy because I am one of the only people that says I'm on everything but Facebook. So you're the only other person who's said that.
No, Fred, I got on Facebook in 2020, right before the COVID. I was like, I got to get off this platform. It's just not for me. My son's got me onto TikTok, and that's where I
Hmm.
do a lot of my poetry. But everything pretty much crosses over. And then you and I met on LinkedIn, so I'm active there. And my blog mostly, I post once a month, but I've had that blog since 2018. So there's a wealth of information there. It should hopefully one day will be a book, the blog itself.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've got all the foundation laid.
I have. I've done a lot of work.
All right. Well, thank you so much again for being here, Maria. I really appreciate it and for sharing your story.
Thank you, Megan. Enlightened in shadow, always with love. Namaste.
Thank you for listening. Did you enjoy this episode? You can now send me a text message and share your experience. Be sure to subscribe to make sure you never miss an episode. Head over to my YouTube channel and hit that subscribe button as well to be part of my growing community. Are you ready to take the next step in your spiritual journey? Don't miss out on the new Dream Empowerment programs. Unique opportunities for you to unlock your inner wisdom, discover your authenticity, align with your higher self, and bring abundance into your life. If you'd like your dream or awakening story featured on my show, submit it today. Your dreams have the power to inspire and enlighten other women on their journey. Visit meganmary.com to find out more.